Just imagine, for a second, that you're the one in charge of building a new power plant, or maybe a massive sprawling bridge, or a brand new industrial facility. These are what we call EPC projects, and they are, without a doubt, some of the most complex, high-stakes undertakings on the entire planet. We're talking about projects that can literally shape a region for decades to come.
So that brings us right to the big question, doesn't it? When you're dealing with that kind of scale, we're talking thousands of people, budgets with lots of zeros, and a multi-year timeline, how in the world do you steer that giant ship to its destination?
You know, the goal sounds so simple, deceptively simple. Finish on time, stay on budget, and do it all without some major crisis blowing up. But let me tell you, actually achieving this trifecta, well, that's the holy grail of project management. It takes a level of mastery that goes way, way beyond just following a checklist.
Okay, so let's make sure we're all on the same page. EPC stands for engineering, procurement, and construction. It's basically this all-in-one approach for delivering these massive projects, where a single contractor is responsible for the whole shebang, from the very first design sketch all the way to handing the keys over to the client.
All right, so how do the best of the best actually pull this off? Here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to look at the core challenge, then we'll break down the must-have skills into 3 key pillars. And finally, we'll see how a true master brings it all together.
First up is the absolute bedrock of your credibility, the technical foundation. I mean, think about it. You just can't lead a team of brilliant, highly specialized engineers and construction pros if you don't fundamentally understand the language of what they do.
And this quote right here, it just nails it. The project manager's job isn't to be the smartest electrical engineer in the room. It's not about being the top structural designer. No, it's about knowing enough to ask the right questions, to spot the risks that others might miss, and to help the team make smart, informed decisions.
This technical know-how really breaks down into 4 key areas. You need the engineering competence to look at a design and challenge it, to ask, hey, is there a better, more efficient way to do this? You need the construction expertise to see a plan on paper and know how it'll actually play out in the mud and the steel of the real world. You absolutely have to lead from the front on health, safety, and the environment, creating a zero-harm culture where everyone goes home safe. And finally, you have to be a master of that incredibly complex dance at the end, the commissioning and startup, to make sure that final handover is perfect.
Okay, so let's build on that technical base with our second pillar, the controls engine. If that first pillar was about understanding the what of the project, this one is all about mastering the how, the business side, the commercial machinery that actually keeps this whole thing on the rails.
And at the absolute heart of this controls engine is one discipline you just cannot compromise on. It's a simple truth. Uncontrolled changes are the #1 project killer, period. If you don't control change, change will control you, and it will absolutely sink your project. This requires an iron will.
And this right here is what that discipline actually looks like. It's not about just saying no to every new idea. It's about having a rigid, documented process. You identify and document the proposed change. You assess its full impact, cost, schedule, risk. You then get formal, written approval from the client. And only then do you actually execute it and update your plan. Every single time. No exceptions.
Another huge part of the controls engine is knowing the contract inside and out, especially who owns what risk. You know, if there's a delay in getting a government permit, is that the client's problem or is it yours? What happens if you find unexpected conditions in the ground? Knowing the answers to these questions before they become million-dollar problems is absolutely fundamental.
And all of this leads us to a core truth, an absolute law of project management. Cost and schedule are completely inseparable. They are 2 sides of the exact same coin. You cannot make a decision about one without directly impacting the other.
This chart shows that law in action. So let's say you're running behind and you want to accelerate to finish, say, 10% faster. Well, that might mean paying for a ton of overtime, chartering planes to fly materials, bringing in more equipment, and that speed almost always comes at a steep price. In the world of EPC, time is literally money. There is no such thing as a free lunch. So we've got the technical knowledge, we've got the control systems locked down, but what, or rather, who actually gets the work done? People. And that brings us to our third and final pillar, the human nexus. This is all about leadership, communication, and your ability to influence others.
This quote is so important because, at the end of the day, trust is the currency you operate on, and the fastest way to go bankrupt is to promise things you simply can't deliver.
The best project managers are masters of setting realistic expectations with everyone involved, and then they work like heck to meet, or even better, exceed them.
You see, this pillar is about orchestrating a small city of people. Stakeholder management means you know that the client's CEO just needs a quick 2-minute update, while your lead engineer needs the full, detailed technical report. Leadership is about forging one unified team out of all these different contractors who've maybe never even met before. And it demands massive emotional intelligence to handle the intense pressure, to solve tough problems when you don't have all the facts, all while keeping your team focused and motivated.
So we've covered the 3 pillars: the technical, the controls, and the human. But here's the thing. True mastery isn't about being great at just one of them. The real art of EPC project management is in weaving all 3 of them together. This is where you become the master integrator.
At the end of the day, the EPC project manager is the one person standing right at the center of it all. They are the hub of the wheel. They connect the engineering design to the project budget, the legal terms of the contract to the construction schedule, and the client's biggest hopes to the team's day-to-day performance. They are the ultimate integrator.
Now look, it's an incredibly tough job. It requires this rare mix of skills that you can really only build over years and years of experience. But the purpose behind it all, that's what makes the whole journey worth it. It's about creating something real, something that lasts, something that will serve communities for generations.
And that wraps up our look at the DNA of a world-class EPC project manager. We've broken down the key pillars of what it takes. So the final question I have is really for you to think about. Whether you're already in this world or you're aspiring to be, which one of these pillars are you going to focus on building next?